After two separate votes, Kevin McCarthy has failed to become the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The reason for this is that he has 19 Republican defections who are supporting Jim Jordan over him. The Democrats, on the other hand, have only been able to secure 212 votes for Hakeem Jeffries. This still isn't quite enough for the Democrats to win because they need a majority of the representatives elect in order to vote for him. So right now, the House of Representatives is stalled. I mean, the current Congress is still in session, but they haven't really been dismissed yet. But the next Congress is going to be dead in the water when it comes to trying to do anything. They have to swear in new members, and until that happens, no legislation, there's no investigations. I don't think there's much that the House of Representatives can do, and this is obviously a bit of a problem for the nation. But that goes to show that Kevin McCarthy is not an adequate leader of the GOP, in my opinion. I think that he's not a good fit. I mean, the Republicans have a hair-thin majority in the House as it is. And if Kevin McCarthy can't convince them to vote for him, then he obviously doesn't deserve the speakership and they should give it to somebody else. And as to why that is, well, it probably has something to do with the fact that he's already promised to not impeach Joe Biden. He's called it political, he's advising against it, and this has upset a lot of these more MAGA populist type of candidates who want Joe Biden to be impeached. I mean, we still have all this. I mean, it's Trump may no longer be in office, but this all goes back to the stuff that was happening when he was in office. I mean, Biden's son Hunter was on the board of Ukrainian energy company, got $80,000 a month or something like that, and was never investigated. And Trump got impeached for basically calling for an investigation into Joe Biden. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to why it is that this guy is basically trying to steer away from this. I mean, it doesn't smell quite right to me. It doesn't make sense. And so the fact that you only have 19 Republicans who are refusing to support this kind of surprises me. I personally figure that there'd probably be more, but I mean, it is what it is. There are 19 people who have said, no, what you're promising and offering isn't good enough. And by the looks of it, he's not offering them much. I mean, not supporting an impeachment, there should at least be an investigation, but I mean, you can't just come out and say that you're not going to be for an impeachment. You have to be for an investigation. Whether the results of that are going to be, then you decide whether or not to support an impeachment. And he's already basically said that they won't impeach. So what does that tell you? That tells you that basically doesn't matter what happened in the 4 years that Trump was president. It doesn't. All that past is essentially water under the bridge to him. He doesn't really seem to care. It's kind of insulting, really, to the Republican base. They want something, anything. And so that's why this is probably just, as Tim Pool has said, MAGA's revenge against Kevin McCarthy. There's a whole thing in the 2022 midterms where basically it's speculated by the more populist MAGA side of the Republican Party that the wealthy, powerful establishment colluded against their preferred candidates and tried to basically screw them over, kept them from winning elections. Basically, it's an allegation the Republican Party is fighting itself. I don't find that to be terribly inaccurate. And this is basically those MAGA Republicans who were, in their eyes, betrayed. This is their revenge. They're basically saying that, well, we're not going to take it from you anymore. If you won't even back us, then why should we back you? It makes complete sense to me. But in the meantime, the House is stuck. And this can go on indefinitely. I mean, the last time this happened was in 1923, and it took 9 separate votes before Frederick Gillett could get a majority and become the Speaker of the House. But that's nothing. Back in 1856, which is 4 years before the Civil War kicked off, essentially, there were 133 votes in order to choose a next Speaker of the House. It took 2 months, which is insane. So If McCarthy isn't going to be Speaker after 2 votes, who knows how long this could drag out? And it really depends on whether or not they're willing to, on what they're willing to give these MAGA populist types. They're going to want something. They're going to want it public. They're going to want it to be real. Something that they can always hold against him if Kevin McCarthy decides to stab them in the back or something. But obviously, Kevin McCarthy wouldn't want to do that because it's probably not within whatever his interests are. I mean, this guy's from California, so maybe he's a bit more of a moderate Republican. I'm not really sure whether he has private interests or just continue his own career interests. He probably doesn't really want to go back on everything he's already promised. And so, in my opinion, if I was the one in this situation, one of these 19 MAGA Republicans, I'd never support McCarthy at this point. Because we've already come down to the vote where we've battled it out. He's lost twice. I mean, I wouldn't. As soon as you give him power, what's to stop him from really coming back against you? And then as soon as he, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Takes power and then ignores you, what are you going to do? Publish his promises to you as a way of make him look bad? This man's going to be praised. If that ever becomes the case, then the New York Times will come out to defend him or stuff like that. There is absolutely no way that the so-called political establishment, the wealthier and more powerful influences in society would ever hold a grudge against Kevin McCarthy for betraying these MAGA upstarts. That's just the simple reality. So, yeah, if I were them, my advice would be just hold out, stick it out. No matter what, do not give in to Kevin McCarthy. You've already pretty much backed Jim Jordan. Force them to come around and support you. Because if you give in once, then I don't know, it's you. If you support him, you give away all of your leverage at this point. And that's kind of my thoughts on this situation. Ezra Levin, I think he's kind of an idiot, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to be overly harsh, but he's calling MAGA incompetent. I mean, he puts MAGA majority in quotes. To be honest, I don't think that most of these GOP representatives who claim to be MAGA in any way are actually are, except for these 19. I think you could call them believers because I mean they're pretty much going against the grain. They're a very small minority. What do they have invested in this besides the ideological win? Not much. But here you have this guy basically calling them incompetent. Well, I think he's kind of dumb. This is the most competent thing they can do. I mean, Kevin McCarthy's already basically come out and said that he doesn't want to impeach Joe Biden. So, what do you have? It's not like you could pass any legislation. What good are you going to be able to do? Raise more funds to fight the war in Ukraine? I mean, odds are, if Kevin McCarthy becomes Speaker of the House, you have the little over 200 Republicans who, I guess, are decided to back the establishment. And then you have the Democrats who all essentially vote along the same lines. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me for any of these 19 Republicans decide to go around and change their mind. I'd hold out, get a better speaker. Seems like they don't want him, don't trust him. That would be my advice. Drag it out as long as you need to. I mean, seems like there's no upper limit. You can at least maintain 2 months of this. Drag your feet, make yourself heard, make your point, force them to submit to what you want. Otherwise, there has to be some give and take within the system. If you're in, look, I'll just say, if these MAGA Republicans, these 19 defectors, decide that they're going to just give in and vote for McCarthy, then this isn't give and take. This is just them giving. They have to be able to get something out of this, which means get someone besides McCarthy, get someone better. Beyond that, I don't know. It's just what's going on in the news. Kind of cool that I got to be able to talk about this. This is my first, I don't know, serious episode that I'm launching. So yeah, I'm glad it could be something that's historically relevant. Hasn't happened in 100 years. Bit concerning, though. I mean, there's shows obvious signs of political infighting. Don't really know where the country goes from this, but I don't know. It is what it is. Play the game smart. Don't play it stupid, and don't give in to people who know you don't really have your best interests at heart. Interests at heart. All right. Well, if you decided to watch, thanks for listening. Have a good one.